A year removed, plus, really, because it was back in August of last year, from her absolute blunders, one of the biggest upsets in all of MMA history. We have the return of Kazakhstan's Mariya Agapova. She's taking on a big-time prospect in the Colombian Queen, Sabina Mazo, who recently dropped her last fight back in February to one Canadian Alexis Davis. The pressure was too much in that fight. Will the pressure be too much in this one against Mariya Agapova? Matt, Agapova has had a weird calendar year, to say the least. She trains out of ATT Sunrise. You can find Charles Rosa there, among others. But Matt, this is a strange fight and a crossroads fight, which is weird to say because we have two 24-year-old prospects in a division where a few wins, you're ranked. A few more wins, you fight Shevchenko.
The tagline for this fight should be contenders or pretenders, because both these fighters are in very similar circumstances. With Mazo, there's been so much hype behind her in the UFC, and when she did have her big opportunity against Alexis Davis, look what happened. She got out-grinded against that classic veteran type of a grinder, really, in Alexis Davis. And Mariya Agapova had the exact same thing happen to her in her last fight. The difference was that she didn't lose to Alexis Davis, one of the most famous and well-known women's pioneers out there. She lost to Shayna Dobson. And if you've watched any Fight Night Picks videos, you know that Shayna Dobson's UFC run has not been great. So the fact that Agapova did lose that fight to Dobson and looks so bad is really, really concerning. This is what I'm going to say, and this is why I call this a potential pretender matchup. I think Sabina Mazo and Mariya Agapova are really good fighters when they're fighting their game. I think the second you decide to make it yours, they kind of break down their game plan. Does that make any sense? Like, with Mazo, I think she's really good when she is on the outside, when she is fighting at her pace. But I think the second you put pressure on either one of these fighters, it completely ruins their game plan.
I remember way back when I started Fight Night Picks, Sabina Mazo was one of those fighters. I had two or three that it was like, okay, Petr Yan, you gotta watch. Ramiz Brahimaj, guy you gotta watch with the submissions. At the time, he was like 6-0. Every win was by submission. I was going through the weird Tapologies, the underground whisper networks of the world.
Vicente Luque.
And Sabina Mazo was one of those fighters. So back in 2018, she had beaten Alejandra Lara, Reina Cordoba, Jamie Thornton, and Lindsey Williams. And then 2018, she fought Shannon Sin, who is an interesting fighter. If you look at her record, she was 5-5 at the time, but a good win for Mazo. Go all the way back down to the start. Alejandra Lara's looked bad recently. She's looked bad since she challenged for the title when it was against Lima Lay McFarlane. However, Alejandra Lara was at one point, and I think she still can be, a good fighter. Sabina Mazo to get that win on the regional scene back in South America, big deal. Really early on, big deal. I absolutely love that. And then I look at Mazo. Well, she fought Marina Moroz, and she struggled with the pressure and the volume, right? So then you go back to the drawing board, and you look at the 3 wins she's able to rack off. She beat Shayna Dobson. MMA math, Sabina Mazo wins this fight every day. She beat JJ Aldrich by split. That's impressive. JJ, what does she do? She's a grinder, right? She's a grinder. She beats Justine Kish by submission.
Destroyed her.
I picked Justine in that fight, so good for Sabina Mazo. Then she fights Alexis Davis, and I remember before that fight going, Alexis, you talk about grinders, Alexis. Once it comes to that second round, and then I listed every single fighter that she beat in the second round. It was like Chukagian, Araujo, like a lot of big names. Those are the only 2 I can think of. But Alexis Davis usually wins the second round, and then you got to rally back in the third, or Davis wins the third and wins the fight. That's what Davis did against Sabina Mazo. For Mariya Agapova, tons of aggression, good wrestling, good grappling once it's on the mat. And then when she came out after beating Hannah Cyphers handily. Now, Hannah was coming back after getting her leg almost torn off by Mackenzie Dern just very, very recently. It was like, wow, why is this fight happening? And then it happened. So Mariya goes in there, and she's feeling it, and she's coming out, and she comes out hot and heavy in the first round. But that scrappy old teacher, Shayna Dobson, had tricks up her sleeve, came back, and ended up winning that fight by finish. Agapova has been out since. That was August of last year. We're now, what are we? October 4th.
When I think about these fighters, I think about them in the opposite way. I think about someone like Tony Ferguson. Like, when the fight gets tough for someone like Tony Ferguson, that's when it really starts. With Mazo, forward pressure, be it grappling or volume, can really get her off her game. And the exact same thing can be said for Agapova. That's why I have such a hard time picking this fight. Because, and this is going to sound like I'm Robin Black, but please hear me out. Whoever wants this more is probably going to win it. I just think whoever works at a slightly higher pace is going to be able to win this fight, because this is the thing. Mariya Agapova does not have the power to stop Sabina Mazo, and she doesn't have the power to stop her forward pressure, and the exact same thing can be said for Mazo about Agapova. If Agapova is the one moving forward, using her wonky movement, I think she's going to be able to get from point A to point B on Mazo, honestly, pretty easily. And I think the exact same thing can be said the other way around, too. I just think whoever is in their offensive mode more often is going to win this fight, because I think defense is not going to matter whatsoever.
No, it's like an NBA All-Star game, to take a Matt reference away from you.
But if you want to do NBA, then like Jimmy Butler would be able to win this game easy because all he does is try really hard. If Sabina Mazo just decides that, hey, when we get close, I'm just going to clinch her up against the cage, and when we're on the outside, I'm just going to leg kick, she should be able to win this fight fairly easily.
So when I look at this one, and then I play the Instagram game, again, I said for Agapova training at ATT Sunrise. If you want to Google her training whereabouts and habits, you can do that. You can do that. It's out there. It's out there.
They're squirrely.
Less than reputable sites. But when I look at Mariya Agapova training with Jillian Robertson, working that ground game, Sabina Mazo is in a gi all over on her Instagram. Brown belt, she's wearing it, she's working on the ground, and that's definitely the area of her game that probably needs the most work to round her out. Mazo's a great striker from the outside. Really good, funky movements too. Long, rangy for this weight class.
Jab.
She almost does like a bit of an L step. She kind of like moves her body into it with her legs. It's really different for this weight class. But she uses her length well. She's only got about an inch of height. She's got a couple inches of reach. She's going to look like a big fighter in this one. For Agapova, it's just that aggression that I like to see in her fights. So when I look at the odds for this one, it is moment for pause. When you see a fighter go from minus at close 1505 when she fought Shannon Dobson, to Mariya Agapova today, that's a plus 155 at open, at a plus 134 right now. For Sabina Mazo, she opened to minus 180. She's minus 163. And when we look over on Topology, all the gusto's gone. 760 total votes, 69% Mazo, 80% by decision. For the 31% that have Agapova, 65% by decision. I think if Agapova can get in there, get this one down to the mat, it's Agapova's world, as long as the last year, for a couple hours a day, she's done the Brandon Davis regiment that brought him back to the UFC, where you're just working your cardio. The skills are there. We'll see what happens in this one, because again, she fell off that cliff as the fight went on. Maybe it was an adrenaline dump. I don't know. It kind of looked like that. But this is a tough fight for both women. What are you seeing here?
I think Agapova's getting washed. There you go. I really do, because this is the thing that Mazo has shown the ability to do. She can technically strike on the outside and still win a fight. If you just pressure her constantly, her footwork's good enough to defend a lot of your takedowns because she's not going to get her back up against the cage. She's going to move around on the outside a lot. And unless you have the punching power of someone like Jessica Andrade, to where you can just get on the inside, 2 shots to the body, 1 up top, finish your opponent, I think Agapova's going to have a really hard time getting on the inside of those strikes from Mazo. It's not that I think Mazo can really stop Agapova from getting on the inside. I just don't think Agapova is going to be able to do it consistently. She might be able to once or twice throughout the fight, but I think it's going to be a lot harder for Agapova to get on the inside of the reach of Mazo than it will be for Mazo to just keep her reach and extend with her jab and leg kicks.
It's always tough to take a game plan from somebody like Alexis Davis that's been there, done that, fought for a title, really been around to take on a young prospect like she did with Mazo. And again, that fight was at 135. You got to talk about that too.
Exactly. And Davis is a much bigger fighter than Agapova. That's all I was going to say. Like, Mariya Agapova's not a big flyweight by any means. Like, she's kind of thin for the weight division. Her and Alexis Davis could not be more different types of opponents.
Oh, there's a picture of Mariya Agapova. Check it out on the Instagrams. I think it's the second or third to last picture when I was doing my research for this one last night. She's cut. Like, she looks like a stack of paper. She looks like Matt just hanging out at New River Beach. I mean, she's very, very thin in that one. So we'll see what she looks like on the scale. For me, I'm going to go with Sabina Mazo ever so slightly. But again, I have this one as a 50-50 coin flip. The odds are where they're at. If you can make a strong argument for either fighter, let us know. And you're not going to want to miss question mark kicks over on Saturday when we offer up our final picks and predictions for this card 2 hours before the prelims. And if you're not subscribed, you'll know when we go live.
What are you doing?
We got to hit that 30,000 subscriber mark so we can get that Dana White's Contender Series show going on. So for right now, both of us going with Sabina Mazo to get the win. Let us know who you've got. Big time fights at the top end of this card you're not going to want to miss. Keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks. As we always say, let's get into it.